In this video, we're going to calculate the 95% confidence intervals for three data sets. I have data set A, data set B, data set C. It's going to be very useful for us to know how many points are in each data set. In Excel, there's an easy way to count things automatically. You can use the count function. What you're going to do is just drag across the area where you're going to enter your data, and it'll give you a count. Now we can drag that across and get it counts for the other two data sets that we're interested in as well. Let's calculate the mean for each data set. We can use the average function. I can drag across the data area again, and there's the mean for data set A. I can drag over here to get the averages for B and C. Let's get the median. The function is median. The median and the mean tend to be very close together. For very small data sets, the median is a better estimate of the population mean than the mean is. All right, let's do the standard deviation. You use the stdev function. Now, notice that Excel has two stdev functions, standard deviation functions. It's got a population one. This is where you know the population mean, and you're using n, the size of the data set, to calculate that. Here's the sample standard deviation, which is almost always what we want when we have a real data set that is not does not contain very large numbers of measurements. So all I've got to do is drag across the data again for that, close the parentheses, and I can drag this over and get the standard deviations for the other two. Now, usually with errors, we are really not interested in more than two figures. We'll worry about that later when we show how to report the confidence interval down here. We'll worry about rounding off then. But until then, we'll leave everything unrounded. The variance is the square of the standard deviation. So I can just click on the standard deviation and caret 2. That's the variance. Drag it over and I have the variance for the other two sets. I'd like to have a t-value for each of these, a critical t-value for 95% confidence. I'm in the number of degrees of freedom that I have with each data set. This is going to help me calculate the 95% confidence interval. And in Excel, you can use the t-inverse function, TINV. And you put in the probability that you'll be wrong. If so it's going to be 0.05. If you want 95% confidence, the probability you're going to be wrong is 0.05. And then I'm going to have the degrees of freedom, which is going to be n minus 1 in this case. So I can drag that over and get t-values for the other data sets. Now with the standard error. The standard error is the standard deviation divided by the square root of the number of measurements. So I can say it's equal to the standard deviation divided by the square root, SQRT, square root, of the number of measurements. And we'll drag that over and get it for the other two data sets. Now finally I can calculate the confidence interval. The confidence interval is going to be the critical t-value here times the standard error. So all I have to do is multiply those two numbers together. Then I can drag that over. And I've got my confidence intervals. Now, how would I report that? I'm going to have to properly round these things off. So I'm going to round off the confidence interval to 2 figures. And if I do that, I'm out to the hundredths place here. So I should round off the mean to the hundredths place too. So I would report this as 3.61 plus or minus. If I have character map open, I can come over here and cut and paste out of that to get a plus or minus sign. You can also do insert symbol within Excel. If I go up to insert and then over here to symbol, I can find the plus or minus sign there and insert it there. So I'm going to say plus or minus 0.50, and we didn't say what the units on these are. You put in whatever units you've got. And you also want to add a little clause on there that says what the error estimate you're looking at is. It's a 95% confidence interval, and n was 7 for this data set. So let me clean that up a little bit. That's how I would report the confidence interval for this data set. Okay, let's do this one. I'm going to round this one off to 0.89. The confidence interval. That goes out to the hundredths place again. So I'm going to take the mean out to the hundredths place. I'm going to say it's 3.83 plus or minus 0.89. Say it was parts per million. I'm going to tell whoever's looking at my error estimate what kind of error estimate it is. It's a 95% confidence interval. Strikeout going there. And the number of data points in this set is 4. Then I can space the column out so I can see the whole thing. Finally, let's do this one. I'm going to round the confidence interval off to 2 places, so it's going to be 0.62. So I'm going to take the mean out to the hundredths place. It's going to be 3.90 plus or minus 0.62 parts per million or whatever units the data is in. I'm going to say 95% confidence interval with n equals 5. Whoops. Okay, so I messed that up. You can hit Control Z to undo that when that happens to you. And I'll space the column so you can see it. And there, I'm done. I have 3 confidence intervals.